From MicrobeTV, this is Office Hours for Wednesday, July 7th, 2026. I'm Vincent Racaniello, and welcome to your viral corner of the internet. Tell me if the volume is okay, folks, before we get very far. Welcome, everybody. Good to see you all. Let's see who's moderating tonight. We have Les, Fabi, we have Les Fabi, and we have Les Fabi. No Vanity Nutrition, not for who knows how long. No one else. Hello, everybody. It's good to see you all. What do we have for us tonight? We have you. Okay, we always have you, which is half of these office hours. We have a mini lecture. We have some news. We have a mini lecture. And we have a couple of poems, including two sent in by you. Yes, you, the listeners. Maybe you're here tonight. Let's see where you're from. I'll shout you out. Virus's Luna is here. Rima and her cat Lulu, welcome. Hello, Questella. Good to see you. The volume is okay. Thank you very much. Questella. Kang is in Chicago, 29°C warm with sunny skies. Today was about 28 and sunny here in New York, but a very tolerable 28. No humidity, really. Virus's Luna explains to us that Lulu is her cat. Virus's Luna is the virus that she infected me with to make me love her eternally. Yes, Lulu is my pumping heart. Heart to Luna. Actually, it's actually cooler if you do it with your pinkies, but I can't quite do it, so I will just do it with these fingers. They're better with others, but I can't do it. You gotta have long fingers to do it the other way. Gol Habibi. Oh, that's a quote. That's a comment on Les. Sandra from CDMX, welcome. I have my cup of lemon zinger tea here. Unfortunately, it's already cold, and that's not good. Hot tea is what's good, right? Hello, John. Welcome. I'm okay with the ones that made it in small homes, just not the fat cats on Wall Street. Pete, at 1 a.m. in a 2-mile square patch of north, I'm 1 degree hotter than even the center of town at 25°C, according to Ventusky and our Met office. I think it reached 32 or 33 west of London. That's pretty warm. Yeah, it's pretty warm. Mike is in Seattle, where it is sunny and 23°C. Welcome. That should read North London. Yeah, I figured it was some code. Lulu is 8 kilograms. That's a pretty heavy cat, right? Soul Symphony, Vincent. You stretch it out. Welcome. Sandy Stanaitis. From Newark, Delaware, where it's 25°C. Welcome. In Minneapolis tonight, where I'll be in a couple of weeks, 26°C. Very cool. Veronika. Privyet. Dobry Večer from Moscow, where it's 20°C with occasional rains. Welcome. So Costello's making dinner. Okay, go ahead and do that. Bad Cat is in Winthrop, Maine, where it is a beautiful 76 F evening. Al-Fadi is in Varanasi, India. Wow, that's far away. 29C and cloudy in the morning. Welcome. Great. Robert is in New Jersey, the Garden State. That's where I am. This is New Jersey right here. Well, in the basement of a suburban house in a rather boring suburb. The whole state isn't boring. There's some nice places, but I have to tell you, look, I was born in New Jersey in 1953. I was born in Paterson, the same place where William Carlos Williams lived, where Albert Sabin worked. At the age, I went to college at 18. Then I came back for a summer when I worked. And then in the fall, I went to grad school. So I moved into New York City. And I said, good riddance, New Jersey. But then in 1989, I went to Boston to do a postdoc. And then I got a job at Columbia in 82. I lived in New York for 7 years. And then, boom, 1989, back here in the swamps of Jersey. Not a big fan. Not a good state to die in. Okay, estate taxes are very high. So I have to go somewhere else. I don't know where. Questella, I get that tea too. So I have a little congestion, as you can hear, still. So I have the tea to help. So far, we're good. I'm not coughing like last time. But I got my cough box here, just in case. Yes, both hot and cold teas are good. Yes. But if you want to clear your throat, and also you can inhale the vapors, right? The hot vapors coming off as you're drinking. It's good. By the way, this is a... does anyone recognize this pattern on this cup? Here's a clue. I bought it at a museum in Madison, Wisconsin. So it's a local guy. And here's another clue. He was an architect. Let's see if you can get that. It's a cool cup. It has a red interior. I like cups with different colored interiors. Will is in Changsha, where it's 28C and clear blue skies and low pollution, which is rare in China, right? Yeah, one of these days I have to get there. Laura's in Washington, PA, 27C and humid. Welcome, welcome. John is in Port Townsend, Washington. It's 16C and cloudy. Polka Dot Pup is in Texoma, where it's 94F. Feels like 103 according to the weatherman. Yes, I'm still stuffed up. In fact, I could blow my nose right now. Excuse me. Tomorrow I'm going to go to urgent care because today I lost my hearing. Well, not completely. I can hear myself talk in my earbuds, but I feel like there's cotton stuffed in my ears. So it's time to get some antibiotics. Michelle is in Philadelphia, where it's 27C, clear and blue skies. Nebby King is in Central Florida, over 100F today, 85 now. Sahara dust makes for great sunrises and sunsets this week. Yeah, that Sahara dust just comes right over the ocean. It goes way up in the atmosphere, right? Or whatever the layer is called. Someone knows. Viruses. So we need hot tea because fever induces IL to kill viruses. Well, I don't know if tea's going to do that, but fever, yeah, is associated with high temperatures can restrict virus multiplication. That's sure. Yep. Soul Symphony. Speaking of leaks, there's talks that you are coming for the measles symposium in Minnesota. where my department is. Everyone I know is excited. I am. So this week, or maybe it was last week, I contacted Roberto Cattaneo. And I invited him to do something. And he said, we have this measles symposium. Why don't you come? So I changed my flight, got a hotel in Rochester, and I'll be going. I'll be there Saturday around noon, stay till Sunday evening, and then make my way to Minneapolis. And good John here, John, our listener, is going to bring me around, which I'm very grateful for. It saves MicrobeTV money. But we'll do a podcast at the Measles Mini Symposium in Rochester. That would be a lot of fun. That's on the weekend. So look forward to meeting you, Soul Symphony 777. It's a great name. Pete, my partner, had an end of college year well-being day with a free choice. She made us walk from Henley-on-Thames to Reading up the Thames Path Trail. Definitely reached 32 or 33. Totally mad, but it sounds like fun. All right, don't forget the Gowanus Walk. If you're in the area, the New York area, we're going to do a walk along the Gowanus Canal in Brooklyn. That's actually the 24th, a Friday at 6 p.m., the Friday before I go to Minnesota. And there is a sign-up form, which I put last time. Maybe Les can find it and put it up again. Should be fun. Stanitis. Okay, Stanitis. Remember, my surname sounds like an inflammation. So the question is, Sandy, are you an inflammation? Or are you, I don't know what the opposite is, normal homeostasis? I'm sure you're normal. Cheryl is in Santa Rosa, where it is 75S and sunny. Welcome. Carol, our favorite nephrologist, in Bakersfield, California, 35C. Pretty warm out there. Hope all is good. Abdur is in Manhattan. Nice to see you, Abdur. Now, Satawi, would I just not say the P? Satawi is in Thailand, rainy with 28C. Welcome. So we have Thailand, we have India. We don't have Visto yet, which would be Australia, of course. Welcome. Legotic writes, Patterson was a great movie about a bus driver named Patterson in Patterson, New Jersey. That's good. I grew up in Patterson. I was there till I was 8 years old. I would say it was an interesting place. A lot of factories. People worked in factories, and we had a factory across from our home that, back then, air pollution was rampant. And in the morning, you'd come out, and the cars were covered with a thin layer of soot, little soot particles, because they were doing something in the factory. And I inhaled those. Yeah. EHS Talent is in Pennsylvania. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Shabankar is in Pullman, Washington. Shabankar Sirkar. Hey, that's good. Pullman, Washington, it's sunny out with 81F. Spoonful of honey, says Questella. It's on my phone. I can barely see it. And nobody has decided they know what this is. Hey, wait. Someone got it. It's not a bridge. No, it's actually a window. It's a stained glass window. And Lori got it. Frank Lloyd Wright. It's going to get blurry here, yeah, because I don't have autofocus. No. Here. My face is in focus. It's a window from one of his homes, and there's something on the bottom, but I still have tea in here. I'm not going to turn it over, turn it on my keyboard, short out everything, end the stream. No, I'm not going to do that. It's a very nice cup. I bought it at the Frank Lloyd Wright Museum Actually, there's no such thing in Madison. At the Madison Convention Center, which is called the Monona, because it's on Lake Monona, there's a gift store, right? There's always a gift store, and they sell a bunch of these. I bought it. So it's not a bridge, Sandra. No, it is a stained glass window. Walrus Gumboot is in Liverpool. It's 1 a.m. and 17C, clear sky. Managed to get some washing on the drying rack outside today. It was 28C earlier. Parth Sharma. Yep, Frank Lloyd Wright. You got it, too. Yeah, Lou Costello also came from Paterson, New Jersey. That's absolutely right. Mm-hmm. We used to watch him when I grew up a lot. Mark Fuccio. Beautiful summer day in San Jose. Little poetry there. 57F at 6:30. 79 at 3. Blue cloudless skies. I'm sampling hummus, olives, pita bread while sipping a zin. I'm here until my wife says fire up the grill. So Mark visited the incubator a couple of weeks ago. And actually, I have a picture of Mark. Let's see if I can find it quickly and show you. Would you like to see that? A lot of people visit the incubator. Well, not a lot, but multiple people visit the incubator. Let's see if I can get to today quickly, because it's back in September last year for some reason. February. When did Mark come? Just recently, right? So it should be right there. March, April, May, June, July. Okay, let's see. Back and back and back, 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 back. Where is Mark? Where is Mark? They take a lot of pictures. I was going to show you some of my old photos, but I didn't get it together. So I'll show you next time. I want to show you what I was into. Let's see, where's Mark? Come on. I see my neck x-ray. That's cool. Where is Mark? I may have passed it. I know it's on this phone. Well, I've gone through enough time. Sorry about that. Mark. Pete. Southern Britain is now in third heat wave this year. This the Chevron heat wave, as the climate campaigners are naming them after oil companies. That is brilliant. I love that. I love that very much. Very nice. Sea King Pro is in BC, where it's 29C. Nice sunny weather. Very nice. Lagotic thinks Marvin Hagler also came from Paterson. That's the pianist, right? Jonathan is in San Marcos, where it's 25C. Welcome. Al-Fadi asks, why does Europe suffer this much? 30 to 35, whereas here, India, 40 has become the norm. That's a good question. So why are people in England complaining? Because they're not used to it, like you are, right? It's the norm. That's it. Patricia. Hello, Professor Patricia from Recife, Brazil, 24C and humid. Welcome, Patricia. Soul Symphony. Can't believe it. Yeah, you can believe it. It's a good meeting. So, and Roberto is a nice guy. But just a little clue or a secret that only you, 91 people, will know. So Roberto will come to ASV on Thursday and be in TWIV along with a person from his lab. I've always wanted to get him on to talk about the SSPE, the post-measles sequelae. So he's going to do that. And I will go to the mini symposium and we'll do a TWIV. I believe it's going to be Sunday at noon. See you there, Soul Symphony. John is absolutely happy to do it and honored. Now I know why. So John is going to drive me an hour from the airport, or maybe more, I don't know, from the airport to Rochester on Saturday. And then he's going to drive me from Rochester to Minneapolis on Sunday. Very much appreciated. I mean, we'll have a nice conversation in the car, and we'll take pictures of the two of us, and we'll share them here. That'll be fun. Sean from Tennessee. Welcome, Sean. Good to have you. C. King writes, I bet everyone attending the measles symposium will love your contagious personality. I have fun at meetings. I like to talk to people. And a lot of people know me, and therefore they are not shy about coming up and talking, right? Because if you've seen a person online for 15 years, we've been doing this for a long time, you kind of get used to them and you figure they're okay, because online we're all friendly, right? So you're not a problem coming up and saying hello. I love it. I love it. Walrus writes, that's what we do in the UK. Anytime we get warm, dry weather, we can get clothes out in the back to dry. That's cool. Save a little money. Very nice. Hyperbole Death Cult is in Hasselholm, Sweden. I want to ask if I'm able to disinfect the area where a tick bit me, or just remove it with the tick. I'm half serious. It came to mind. I used a drop of alcohol and gentian violet. I don't think that's a bad idea. As long as you get the tick out, right? You get the head out and you don't leave any parts behind. That's fine to use a little alcohol and gentian violet. Yeah, it's a good idea. Sean writes, the media needs a snippet of information of mitovirus. Well, we're going to have a mini lecture on mitovirus tonight, okay? Because, Sean, you asked for it. I'm glad you're here tonight. I hope everyone else likes it. It's good. Hyperbole is in Hasselholm, where it's 12C. A little chilly there. A little chilly. So here's the link for the Gowanus Walk. Excuse me again. What else is interesting is, besides I have stuffed sinuses, I have stuffed ears, my eyes tear periodically. Like I'm crying, but I'm not. I never had that happen before. All this is coming back from Colorado a couple of weeks ago. Okay, anyway, that's the link for the Gowanus Walk, July 24th, I think it is, Friday. Sean wants to paint the mitochondria. You should do that. Mitochondria are pretty cool. Do it. Do I have? And Walrus asks if he has a microscopic paintbrush. So, Very Nika says, I've been hearing for years now that heat waves in India are deadly. In Europe, entire infrastructure is created to make a city warmer for winters. So now Euro cities are an oven. Wow, that's interesting. Yeah, the winters are cold there, right? They're cold. What's up, Bugs? Renee from Toronto, where it is hot as, a lot. What's the number? RNA in the cup. No, it's not RNA. It's a stained glass window. Fadi writes to Very Nika. Makes sense. Somebody was explaining there is some reason why people can sweat in India easily, but in Europe people aren't sweating for some reason. Did someone say my name? RNA. Yes, RNA. There you go. That's a good name. Yeah, Questel, I can't have any more dishes in my kitchen no matter how much I love them. I agree. I have way too many cups, mugs. I have totally mismatched mugs. They're all different. Many years ago, I bought a set of 6 red peace mugs. Robert Redford used to have this catalog. I don't know what the name is. It's named after one of his movies or something in one of his movies. What was it called? Anyway, I bought it from there, and all but one are broken. Patricia's in Massachusetts. Welcome, Patricia. John Sheehan worked at the Totowa Hills Cabana Club one summer just outside Patterson and roomed in Patterson. Yeah. So I grew up on Pennsylvania Avenue, where in my house, my parents' house, no longer there because Route 80 goes through it. So they built Route 80 in the 60s, the early 60s, and they told us we had to move because they were going to knock our house down. And some houses, now these were very big houses. We had a basement and then 3 stories above it, and we rented the top story to a family. And so there are many houses like that in the area. Some of them, they put them on wheels and they moved them so they wouldn't have to demolish the house. But we decided to take the city's payment, or federal, it's a federal highway, I guess, Interstate 80, and we moved to Upper Saddle River, way up north in Bergen County. Yep. Parth Sharma recently visited Frank Lloyd Wright's Bachman Wilson House in Bentonville, Arkansas. Super cool. Highly recommend. Patricia can hardly hear me. Well, everyone said it was fine. Maybe you should turn your stuff up. All right, Mark visited on June 19th. Let me see if I can narrow it down. No, you didn't break my camera. It's all good. Let's see. June 19th. Oh, you know what? I didn't even get there. I was almost there. So this picture is the 20th. There we go. So Mark must not be far behind. Where is Mark? Here. Is this Mark? No, that's somebody else. Where did the picture? There he is. Here's Mark. Did I send it to you, Mark? I don't know if I did. Anyway, let's drop it to the Mac Studio here. You don't have to be so loud. Drop it to the Mac Studio, and we will put this. Are you ready for Mark and me at the incubator? Here we go. There you go. Mark and me at the incubator. That's how I usually take pictures of people. I sit them down at this chair where I usually sit for recording, and there's the shelf behind me. So thank you for visiting, Mark. There you go. So Veronica continues. As far as I understand, the current heat wave in Europe is literally Sahara weather. Also, almost no one has air conditioners. Usually there's no need. Electricity is expensive and you need to get permission. Hyperbole. Are you sure you weren't exposed to the Manhattan Legionella? No, that's in the Upper East Side, and I haven't been there at all. I've been south of 34th all the time. I brought this back from Colorado. Although I think it's a multi-agent infection. In Colorado, I got a upper tract cold, right? Common cold. A little stuffiness, nose stuffiness, and sore throat. That took a couple of weeks to go away. And then one morning I had sinus stuffiness, which was different from a stuffy nose. Then it moved into my bronchi, and I had coughing, and I was bringing up mucus, right? Not terribly purulent, but mucus. The coughing has largely subsided, but the sinus stuffiness has not changed, and I'm tired of it. It makes you feel horrible, right? Because I have other pains, and I don't need something else on top of it. So I have chronic neck pain for a year. I went to get x-rayed. Guess what? The lower 2 cervical discs are compressed. Why? because I'm 73. It happens. Many, many people of that age have compressed discs. Sorry, compressed discs. Now, I have limited mobility. I can't turn my head a lot. I mean, I can. There's slight pain. Sleeping is horrible. That's the worst time. Anyway, sorry, you don't need to know. Marvin Hagler was a great boxer. Is that the boxer you're talking about? Not the pianist. All right, I'm sorry. Marvin Hagler was a boxer. Yeah. I'm thinking of... Yeah, okay, there's Marvin Hagler. He was from Patterson. Okay. Yeah, he was a champion, middleweight champion. Thank you for clarifying. Hello, Vista. Welcome. 14C in Sydney. Cloudy and threatening rain. Cillian. Lovely name, Cillian. Are viruses originate from cells or just self-assembled biomolecules? Okay, this is a good question. So viruses are probably both. In the early days of Earth, pre-cellular life, this is many billions of years ago, we think there were these self-replicating RNA molecules. We call them replicons. And initially they didn't encode for any protein, but they were able to replicate. And actually you can duplicate this chemistry in the lab today. Then proteins began to evolve, and then eventually DNA arose, all in this cell-free area, and then the first cells arose. And when the first cells arose, those RNAs went into them, those self-replicating RNAs and DNAs that went into them, they grabbed capsid-coding genes, and out they came as bona fide viruses. This has actually come up today in our mini lecture. Bona fide viruses. So then, cells evolve then. From that proto-cell, they begin to evolve. And it's likely that over the millennia, viruses escaped from cells as well. There's no reason why that can't have happened. But so I think both theories are correct. Of course, we don't have a lot of data, but what we do have supports that idea. John says the drive is about an hour. We have strong AC too. It's up to you, whatever you want. I don't need strong AC. Today I froze at the incubator because it's so cold I cannot control the temperature. It's ridiculous. Kang, how would you know you have a bacterial infection? Isn't suffering for 6 weeks the guideline for using antibiotics to treat a secondary bacterial infection? That's a good question. How would you know? So, for example, when kids have ear infections, or even adults, you just treat them with antibiotics, typically like Augmentin, right? And as I don't think they're going to take a swab. I think they will listen to my chest, right? They will ask me about symptoms. They will say, you have an ear infection. They'll look in my ear, and they'll say, yep, you have an ear infection. And the thing is, ear infections are often caused by viruses, right? But so then I can't do anything, but they're going to give me an antibiotic, and it has a chance of working or not. We'll see. Can feel better in a day or two. I have to do something. I'm just sitting around, Yep. Okay, so Phil asked, where would this virus exist without a cell? So I just told you they were self-replicating RNA elements. And the mitoviruses are like related to them, as we're going to see today. Hello, Tom from the Oregon Coast Range. No worries about late. It's absolutely okay. And Julie is here also. Welcome, Julie. Patricia's not a fan of gentian violet, but clean that tick. Costello, keep the tick and track the date. If you start getting a mysterious illness in a few weeks, from what I understand, tell the doctor or whoever you see you had the tick bite. Yes, yes, yes. Professor, have you tried docosanol for sleep? No, I haven't. Let's see what it is. An over-the-counter antiviral used to treat cold sores. Abreva. So why would that work for sleep? Let's type in docosanol for sleep. It is not a sleep aid. So maybe you're thinking of something else. Gol Habibi. Tell me, my eyes cry when I'm tired. Yeah, that makes sense. But I'm tired all the time, and I don't cry all the time. Phil Nelson, did you say rhinovirus? Surely a select species African large mammal of the horn type disease. So the nose, the Latin name for the nose is rhino, right? What does rhino mean? A rhinoceros. I don't care about rhinoceros. Nose. It refers to the nose. That's right. And so rhinovirus is an upper tract pathogen, although it can actually go into the lung. So common cold. Nasopharynx, right? Nose, and then these cavities above it that go down into your... So, the nose is followed by a cavity that bends around and joins with your esophagus, right, from your mouth. So up above the esophagus is all the nasopharynx. Lots of mucosal surfaces for viruses to reproduce in. And that's how they spread, by replicating in the nasopharynx, and then you expel them by talking or sneezing or coughing. They typically don't come out of your lungs to go out into the air. It's too far down. It's hard to get stuff from down there out. I mean, air does, but the particles will get stuck. What does Rich Condit mean by spinach? I thought for a while he meant glycosylation, but that seems wrong. Spinach is any side chains on chemicals, I think he means. It could be glycosylation, yeah, but it could be other kinds of... So if you have a triphosphate and you add side chains to make it an inhibitor, that could be spinach too, yeah. It's kind of cool, right, using the word spinach. But many of these drugs are multicyclic compounds, right? And Dixon always used to call that dihydroxy chicken wire, right? Because it looks like chicken wire, the rings, the six-membered rings. Dihydroxy chicken wire. Brilliant man. Spinach. Will writes, I remember some August back in the UK when the peak temp was 20. Yeah. Would that be global warming? It's always the most vulnerable who suffer, while the richest poison our planet. That's right. Sundance. Thank you very much. The Sundance Kid. And he had a catalog, maybe he still does, called Sundance, with very kind of neat country type stuff. Yeah. Christella writes, talking about mismatched mugs. Mismatched is best for daily life. Matching sets are good for entertaining people you never see. I don't entertain anybody, so I don't give a damn. But I'd really like to have, I don't want 6 of these, just my 6-piece red peace cups. They're beautiful. There's a peace sign on the front. It's red. I love them. Hello, Mark from Vegas. It's 43C. Oh, my gosh. Laura Laura Dunn says, the Frank Lloyd Wright stained glass window is the tree of life. Cool. I believe you. It does look like a tree. Frank Lloyd Wright. Well, there's just a signature on the bottom. It doesn't say what it is. So we'll take you as the definitive source. There is a teaspoon of honey in there. New Jersey honey, in fact. Honey, you want some New Jersey honey? Hello, Mark. We already got Mark, right? Vegas, 43C. Mark has a question for the panel. Does anyone know if gentian violet can be used for canine yeast-induced rash infections? Go for it, folks. Tom writes, unexpected company. I will miss a lot of this. Note the reference I found last time. No indication of archaea virions with RNA genomes. Genomic sequences, but no RNA virions isolated. Thank you, Tom. See ya. Have fun. No RNA virions. TB writes, 80% of cannabis plants are mitovirus positive, and they grow better. Interesting. Interesting. Despinalupos, Buenasera from the west by God, Virginia. Dimitra is helping us communicate science with donations. Thank you very much, Dimitra. Appreciate it. Catch My Whiff is here. Hello. I wish I was there. Where do you want to be? I don't know what you're talking about. Oh, at the incubator. Oh, I'm sure you'll come one day. We'll figure it out. Don't worry. Sean, is a mitovirus like a prion? No. A mitovirus has a nucleic acid genome. A prion is just protein, right? The cover is blown. I need to enter a witness protection program. Yeah, right. So now you know what Mark looks like. Eric writes, why was Shingrix developed? Zostavax seems to be just a big dose of regular attenuated varicella vaccine. Okay, it's true. It's a higher dose of the childhood chickenpox vaccine. It's attenuated vaccine. It's infectious. There was a little bit of reactivation. There's a little bit of latency associated with the vaccine and a little bit of reactivation, i.e. shingles. And so Shingrix, and it wasn't 100% effective at preventing shingles. I don't remember the percentages. But Shingrix was developed, and it turned out to be 100% effective at preventing shingles. And since it's a glycoprotein vaccine, there is no chance of getting shingles. So now it's being trialed to replace the childhood chickenpox vaccine, right? Which is the one that Zostavax is made of. Yep. Is there a market for cannabis in a legal sense? I have some shares in GrowGen, and medical use seems to be more accepted. I have no idea. All I know is in New York, there are cannabis stores everywhere, and if you walk on the sidewalk, all you smell is cannabis. You don't smell cigarettes anymore. So a lot of people are doing it. So Tom writes, so as the commentator indicated last time, and VR agreed, no archaeal virions. Nothing I found in the recent literature. Just wanted to set my record straight. Thank you for that. Thank you very much. Les asks, did your peace mug come from the Paul Newman charity? Hole in the Wall game named for Butch Cassidy's gang. No, it was just from Sundance catalog. Robert Redford. Catch My Whiff. I have allergies. If I sniffle instead of blowing my nose, I almost always get an upper respiratory infection. So what do you do about it? Catch My Whiff. Do you do nothing or just wait? And if you just wait, how long does it take to resolve? Yeah, Shingrix is a subunit vaccine. Sandy, staniitis. You need a neti pot to integrate your sinuses. And then I can get an amoeba infection, right? It'll go in my brain. No, thank you. Christina is in Hershey, PA, where it's 79F. A.E. Caulfield is in the UK. 30C indoors and high pollution. That is hot. Adi B. Weiss. How big is the tension on HEV? Actually, quite a bit. It's becoming more of an issue. I did an interview with XJ Meng last year, actually, when I visited Virginia Tech, and we talked about Hep B. It's becoming an increasing problem. You should look up that interview on Twiv. Maybe Les will find the link and listen to it. It's really good. It's really good. Catch my whiff. I forgot. Metro West, Massachusetts is quite beautiful today. Reasonable humidity, a slight breeze, and it's actually a comfy 80 right now. Al-Fadi writes, Professor, I watched a Veritasium video. He said it is survival of fitness is enough and not the survival of the fittest that results in genetic diversity of a particular biome. Well, the survival of the fittest is still the default, right? It's responsible for a lot of selection. But sometimes the fittest are not the ones who survive. And this is all about mutation rates. And maybe that's what this video is talking about. I have to look at it. But there are alternatives to survival of the fittest. But in the end, it's really fitness that drives everything, right? Totally. Generally, it's a bacterial infection when your sputum goes clear to green. Well, it's not clear. It's just white, right? Yeah, I think it's a bacterial infection. Probably I had bronchitis and sinusitis. And I should just get some antibiotics, right? My eyes cry. My eyes cry when I read domestic news stories. That's good. That is good. Hello, Hans from Ecuador, 28C. Nice to see you. Hence why rhinoceros are called that, literally nose horn. Yeah. Everyone else said the nose is okay. The sound is okay, but I will bump it up a tad. How's that? Whales have another sinus setup. I mean, it's complicated sinus. I bet it is. So Kangra asks, would the definition of life require a functioning cell? I hate to be, narrow-minded about this. But all life that we know of is cell-based, right? Could life be something else? I don't see why not. Just come up with something else. I mean, is the Earth life? It's not a cell, right? I mean, what's her name? Can't remember her name. Sagan's wife for a little while. She thought the Earth was living, the Gaia hypothesis, right? That's a good question. I mean, 10 years ago, I would have said absolutely. But why not? I think you should be flexible in your thinking. Pete writes, today's section of the Thames path was around 11 to 12 miles. Previous ones more like 5 to 7 miles, so may not last till 3 a.m. UK. We started at the barrage in East London many years ago. Slow progress. Phil writes, promethazine, a wonder drug. Limited chance of a sensitivity reaction, induces some sleep, and reduces any allergic histamine reaction. So I have no problem getting to sleep. What I do is wake up, right? And maybe it's cortisol that's waking me up, which is induced by stress, right? I have a lot of stress. Maybe it's pain. I have neck pain, my shoulder hurts, my hip hurt for a while, but that seems to have gone away with treadmilling. Thank goodness. Also, I do these exercises that twist the hip joints, flex them out. So the pain often wakes me up. Oh my God, the other night, I don't know, I had a dream and somebody was stabbing my calf with a knife. And I woke up and it was hurting like hell. It was sore for the rest of the day. I had a cramp. And that wakes me up too. Anyway, it's fine. I'll be fine. I'm not complaining. I'm just sharing my experience with you. What was it that from that poem? Clarity. Clarity of the morning. Not soon as late as the approach of my 90th year, I felt a door opening in me and I entered the clarity of the morning. I'm just sharing my clarity with you, my attempts to have clarity, right? Because as you age, things break and it distracts you from your clarity. You get all wrapped up in not feeling right? And that sucks. You should be invested in your clarity and your purpose in the world and forget about this other crap. And so I'm trying to do that. Maybe I need to meditate. Yeah. Robert, thank you for your contribution to science communication. Really appreciate it. Yeah, but this is a good question for AI. Should we ask AI? I have a good relationship with Claude. What did Kang say? Kang, would the definition of life require a functioning cell? The definition of life require a functioning. I'm surprised you didn't AI it, Kang. Let's see. This is a classical and genuinely contested question in biology. So genuinely is a word that they use, that Claude uses all the time. It kind of drives me nuts. Genuinely. The short answer, it depends on which definition of life you use, and none is universally accepted. Okay, so an argument that a cell isn't required, a sufficiently complex self-replicating molecule like an RNA could arguably satisfy minimal definitions of life. The RNA world could have been alive. So, yeah. It's still about your definition of life. Actually, this is a very good response. I like it. So that would be my answer. And the examples are good. The RNA world, right? RNA molecules. Really cool. Do you think that Walrus writes, do you think that nuclear material in the cell are like the chicken and egg scenario in terms of what came first? I've heard of the RNA world hypothesis, but not sure why there would be RNA. So RNA is, I don't know why it would evolve first. That's a good question. There are probably chemical reasons for that I'm not aware of. But it did evolve first. They were self-replicating RNA molecules. And the nucleus came later. That's totally fine. The nucleus requires DNA, right, to make a complicated cell. And so RNA had to first go to DNA, which required reverse transcriptase, which required proteins. So we had RNA, then we had proteins evolving, then DNA, and then probably cells, and then a cell nucleus. Boom, 2 billion years of evolution. That's it. Local honey is supposedly good for plant allergies. We want New Jersey honey. Well, I don't find any difference between New Jersey honey and any other honeys. Corn Mike forgot it's Wednesday. Glad I could tune in from MicrobeTV. A steamy 82F in the Corn Belt. Welcome, Mike. Rhino comes from the ancient Greek word for nose. There it is. Will writes, the forecast for us, that's Changsha, Saturday is 39. At least that's better than 42 as previously expected. Dimitra, thank you so much for your support of science communication. Really appreciate it. I'm going to take a break now, and we're going to do a little bit of science news. There's important stuff happening in the news. Oh, nose time again. it seems that when I talk, I get more congestion. So I'm just sitting at the incubator. I'm fine. But when I talk, I get congested. Okay, here's the first story, which Les actually mentioned early at the top. Plaintiff for anti-vaccine group's suit is charged with murder of her twins. So this is a New York Times article by Christina Jewett, just published July 7th, yesterday. So you've probably heard this story. There's a young mother in a small Idaho town. She said she found her twin toddlers dead in their bed, cold and lying on their bellies. 3 days later, she sat for an interview with Children's Health Defense. This is a anti-vaccine nonprofit co-founded by RFK Jr. And she claimed that vaccines caused their death. So these are two young kids. Of course, this organization, which is all about anti-vax, embraces the woman. She is named the plaintiff in 2 legal actions against pediatricians, claiming that the organization, the AAP, lied about the safety of childhood vaccines. Then last week, the local police, a grand jury, following the police investigation, indicted her on charges of murder, claiming that she suffocated the kids. And of course, the Children's Health Defense is saying that the police are covering up the vaccine danger. And, so did the vaccine kill the kids? Here's a quote by Peter Hotez. Let's see if we can find it. And, they're all saying, oh, she's a wonderful person. They died 8 days after they got the vaccine. So Hep A and flu, and then DPT. I think now she's anti-vaccine. Peter Hotez said the theory lacks plausibility, especially given that both children who are not identical twins died at about the same time more than a week after vaccination. I'm not aware of any vaccine that would be able to cause suffocation, he said. If that were the case, you'd expect to see other cases appearing in the community. Okay, so why is this concerning? Because it's obviously a bogus claim that the vaccine killed her kids. The police are not covering up vaccine injury. They investigated and they determined, based on evidence, that she suffocated them. For whatever reason, I don't know. But this story went viral, right? And it's just going to make more people think, I'm not getting my kids vaccinated, right? Even though it's wrong. And that's the insidious danger of these kinds of stories, which really are based on lies. They're all lies. And Children's Health Defense is all about anti-vaccine. And they're, they're RFK Jr.'s creation. They give him ammunition in terms of in the form of information that he can lie about. So she will be convicted on murder, most likely, or manslaughter. This has nothing to do with vaccines. They don't have any evidence that this is caused by vaccine. Children's Health Defense didn't do any research. And there's obviously forensic evidence that she killed her children. So for Children's Health Defense, they're so adamant that the woman is right. To push this is criminal, actually, because they're going to have more people not vaccinating their kids, and kids will die as a consequence. This is what's happening in this country, folks. We have liars running the health care of this country. Really bad. Okay. What else do we have? Where is the other story? I think this one is another one. This is the other one. This is also a New York Times article. Research universities are admitting fewer PhDs, a bad sign for science. So this is by Vimal Patel. The number of students admitted to PhD programs this fall dropped 15% from the previous year. This is a survey of over 50 top research universities. And it is driven by a chaotic and unpredictable federal funding environment under the Trump administration. So why is this bad? Well, you're going to have fewer people to teach and mentor undergraduates, and there will be fewer researchers to power our scientific workforce, right? Which is premier. And you want to cripple it because a few ideologues are running this country right now? The most cited reason for the decline was the unreliable nature of federal funding in the current administration, right? So they have proposed major cuts last year. Congress restored the funding. Again, they're proposing cuts. Congress will probably reverse it. But this uncertainty makes it hard for schools to make multi-year commitments to doctoral students, right? It's at least 4 or 5 years, maybe more. The administration also ended thousands of research grants last year. We talked about this, arguing that they don't align with the government's priorities. The government's priorities are to be stupid and not to take care of the population, right? It's ridiculous. So this is another issue. Here it goes. So this is a statement from the White House, right? He said, Trump is committed to keeping America a world leader in scientific innovation. That means funding real science, not left-wing ideology. For years, federal grant dollars were funneled into politicized research with little accountability to taxpayers or results to show for it. We're ending that waste. This is all a lie, folks. The research supported by the government over the years has been real science. Now they want to make it politically controlled. They want politicians deciding who gets the grants. That is not science, folks. That's not how you should decide who gets grant monies with politicians. And so this is a lie. This lady's statements are all lies. There was no there was no lack of accountability. There was no lack of reporting of results. There was no waste. This is a lie. And if you believe her, I'm sorry, she's wrong. We have to support science in this country. If it falls apart, all the health benefits will be gone. And you know, we have a lot of great health benefits coming from basic research. Do I have to tell you? Vaccines, antivirals, cancer therapies, other disease treatments, or the gene therapy, for example. It's all based on research carried out with federal dollars. The companies are not going to do this. The companies don't want to take chances like university researchers do and spend years working on something not knowing if it's going to work. We have to keep the universities strong. How can you do that? Vote in November. Get these people out of power. They're screwing up this country. Walrus asks, would there not have been an RNA intermediate before RNA? Well, there may have been a chemically related, sure. I mean, it wasn't just immediately RNA. There was probably some intermediate, right? Of course, we don't have any evidence from that era. We just have people making these chemicals in the lab these days and showing that they can self-replicate. But yes, I think there were probably ancestors of these RNAs. Yes. Mark writes, is it true that prions from deer can survive in the soil and then re-express in grass? Yes. We did a paper on TWIV about this a while ago. So the deer excrete prions, right, in, say, urine. They survive in the soil. The plant, they get into the plant roots. They're taken up into the plant. And then they are infectious in the leaf. And you can take that leaf and grind it up and feed it to an animal, and we'll get a prion disease. So, yes, that's one of the concerns about deer prions. Costello wants to go to New York. I'm sure you will. Michelle writes, Vincent, you should create a short in the letter you read from a viewer about AI and human imagination. I was thinking of doing that, actually, yeah. It was a fabulous letter. And, I'm sorry that many people do not make it to the letters. I understand it's long. That one was fantastic. I'm going to do that, yes. I will read it aloud. It's a good idea. Aubrey is in Richmond. 26C, overcast and humid. Welcome. Catch my whiff, who has sinus problems. I take a basic antihistamine. I've had much success with this 3 of the 4 times I got COVID. Stopping the postnasal kept my symptoms to just mild COVID. It's cool. Entropy drives everything. Yes. And it's part of it's part for survival of the fittest. It's driven by entropy. Yes, I do believe that. Hepatitis E virus, TWIV 1271. Hokies go viral too. Thank you, Les. Thank you very much. Phil writes, survival of the shiftiest, kind of what works at the time. Quick, rapid response to change, although over time survival of the fittest will work best, as quick responses will probably fail. Well, evolution selects for what is best fit at the moment. It's not trying to build for the future. It's the moment. Whatever the conditions are, it selects for. So rapid response, yes, will be important, right? All right, impertinent organism writes, since we're on the topic of the definition of life, I know that viruses aren't considered living, but aren't they living adjacent? Here's how I see it. So a virus is an organism with 2 phases. There's the virus particle, and there's the infected cell. The virus particle is not living, doesn't do anything without a cell. But the infected cell is still certainly alive. And the virus has taken over all the cell functions to make new virus particles. So that's the answer. It's an organism with a living and a non-living phase because the particle is not alive. But as you say, they're living adjacent. So what does that mean? Once they get into a cell, then the infected cell is alive, and it's essentially a virus factory. So I think that's the answer. Yes. Do fevers reactivate herpes? Yeah, they can. Absolutely. Sometimes people get fevers and they get a cold sore, which is also called a fever blister, right? In some parts of the world. Dimitra writes, if it were viral, my little thing here, you'd be getting better, not worse. It is almost certainly a secondary bacterial infection. I'm a pharmacist. It's good to be cautious with antibiotics, but by now, okay, I agree. I had a primary viral common cold, and then it became a secondary bacterial infection. That's right. And I have to go tomorrow and get some antibiotics because I feel miserable. Not miserable, but it's annoying. You know how it is. Eric, I remember the dihydroxy chicken wire of Dixon by Palmier. Yes. Catch my whiff. I used to get stress headaches where the back of my neck all the way to the top of my head was stiff. Yes, so when I wake up, so the problem is I can't find a pillow that works, okay? I have a neck roll, which is perfect, but I don't breathe properly on my back. But sometimes I'll wake up at 5 and I don't want to get up yet, and I take my neck roll and just lie on it for a half hour, and that really helps. Otherwise, yeah, there's a shooting pain up to the back of my head. Yeah, this is describe your pain. Catch my whiff also says I had to learn how to deal with stress in an emotionless as much as possible way. It's not easy, right? Ryan writes, why are bats able to harbor so many viruses without becoming sick? Well, bats have really amazing immune systems. And they seem to be really powerful because of flight, right? Bats fly, and flying burns oxygen at a high rate, and that makes oxygen radicals, which are damaging. And so the bat immune system has evolved to get rid of these oxygen radicals. And at the same time, and how has it done that? By duplicating many immune genes and having unique immune genes and so forth. And so that helps them fight off infections. That's the theory, and so far, the evidence seems to support it. March from the Philippines. Hello, welcome again. John, thank you so much for your support of science communication. NPR played an old Radiolab episode this weekend. I knew all the details and scientists they discussed because of MicrobeTV. Typhoid Mary, Obscure Facts, David Quammen, and Michael Warby. We are useful, I think. I think we are very useful. In the last TWIV, I was lamenting a little that I get frustrated that we don't reach enough people. And someone wrote, Vincent, don't ever stop. And, that's what I need to hear. Phil writes, is the Earth really just a big biome? Billions of years, many systems so intricately entwined, all functioning in some amazing orchestration that can only make you pause and think. It is a big biome, yes. You could say that that's living. I have no problem with that. Aubrey writes, implicit in the question is, do we truly understand what life is throughout the universe? Perhaps it's the same, perhaps it's not. The egg came first where the mutation occurred. We have our assumptions about what life is here on Earth, but it may be very different elsewhere, absolutely. Whether or not we find out ever, we don't know. But for sure. Kang, may I suggest Shelley's Ozymandias for a future poem to remind us that if we survive, this too shall pass. Yeah, I will write that down here for 7. It's going to be 15th, right? Yep, definitely. Thank you, Kang. Hello, MN9159. Welcome. Don't worry about being late. It's okay. Phil writes, Dr. Peter seems to be reasonable. What is happening in the USA with anti-vaccine RFK Jr.? They're taking over the narrative because he's in a position, he has the pulpit. His nonprofit runs to where people say they have vaccine injuries. They publicize it. They make lies, and they're running the narrative. But it's not going to go well in the midterms. People don't like this. Hi, Cyrus, from a 30-year California native who moved to Norway. It is 13C here. Welcome. Our other Norway friend is not here, Dagfinn. Sandy writes, she was smart enough to suffocate them as strangulation produces petechia in the eyes. She thought she could get away with the crime. No, I don't think so. I mean, 2 kids dying from the suffocation at once? No way. No way. Yes, safe travels to Vanity. She's going to Montana. Christina writes, not only are fewer students being admitted, but there are students being admitted and then forced to master out because no one has enough funding to take them. That's absolutely right. Phil has been cleaning out an unfortunately some few months ago rat-infested shed. I have developed aching bones, tiredness. Is this a symptom of old age or something more sinister? Well, if it's rapid onset, it's unlikely to be old age, right? Old age-related issues are insidious. Well, I have to say, Well, one day when my neck started hurting, it wasn't insidious at all. Say, what the hell? And it kept up. So you should have it checked out. You should go to the doctor and have some, samples taken and check for signs of inflammation and so forth. I mean, it may be aging, but just check it out. Yeah, so Questella heard this about the woman and the two kids. She probably gave them vaccines because that was always her plan. Crazy. The thing is, she's 23 and she just had another kid. So what's going on? Hey, I think this is good. Eric writes in the phase 2 trial, in the Brazilian phase 3 trials, the Chadox SARS-CoV-2 vaccine demonstrated 100% efficacy against homicide. 2 homicides in the control group, 0 in the vaccinated group. That's right. That's right. Logotic writes, I was just reading about how the Netherlands is recruiting American scientists who have had it with the nonsense. Yes, many countries are. They are a catch because American scientists are wonderful. It's a great place to be trained. A lot of people come here from other countries to get trained. So Patricia writes, RNA with enzymatic activity. RNA goes to DNA, membrane encapsulate DNA. My guess it was a primitive nucleocapsid. Probably that was the first thing that happened. Yeah, it was a primitive nucleocapsid. Maybe that became the nucleus, and then a cell formed around it. Yeah. We have to support critical thinking and science. That's right. Yeah. Try putting in a funding request to prove that global warming is not happening. It would get approved, I bet. Sure. Sure. So Cosmic Lettuce writes, basic science research doesn't necessarily require government funding, but any kind of funding. But look, we're putting $50 billion a year into the NIH. You're not going to get that kind of funding anywhere else. Companies are not going to do this. You have to do academic research. So Questella says, we got to get some mental health help for postpartum women in a bad way. When I was struggling postpartum, I just was told to grow up and get over it. Yeah, it's not the answer. It's really too bad. Not in this administration, right? They don't care. Martha, hello from Charleston, has cooled to 85. TB writes, FDA just approved Otarmen. It's an adeno-associated virus vector-based gene therapy indicated for the treatment of biallelic otoferlin. It's cool. Phil asks, is the deer prion disease like BSE? Is it dangerous? Well, that's the question, right? BSE was a cow or cattle disease that got into people. So we're worried that the deer disease will get into people in a similar way. It hasn't happened yet, but we want to try and avoid it because a lot of people eat deer, right? Is there any science, Questella writes, on why pregnancy and then not being pregnant hijacks our monkey brain so badly? So actually, there is. We did an episode on twin this week in neuroscience on this. Vivian did it because Vivian has recently been pregnant. And it's all about why pregnancy hijacks the brain, right? It's basically it. You should listen to that. Questella, thank you so much for your support of science communication. Really, really appreciate it. Because people have zero clue cold sores are related to herpes. They will fight you on it even if you try. I know, people fight, and you have an expert in the room, and people will fight it. Yeah, it's true. What bacteria can digest prions? I don't know. There are certain proteases, but So certain proteases can digest prions, but I'm not aware what bacteria produce them, but they might. It's a good question. I don't know the answer. Do I need a TA? No, I don't. My course is next semester, and I don't need a TA. We have TAs already. Dodo. Les writes, dodo birds were brilliantly adapted to Mauritius before man arrived. Natural selection does not consider the future. Totally right. Vista writes, CPAP breathing support brought my nighttime cortisol levels back to normal. It seems suffocation can be stressful. You know, I've been monitoring my respiration. I wear a watch at night. There's no evidence that I have sleep apnea. But maybe that's not good enough. I don't know. So Eric writes, with respect to the RNA world, sure, it's very plausible, but maybe not the first replicating system. Jack Shostak has some lectures about how getting reliable replication started is hard, maybe too hard for RNA. Yeah, but you can do it. You can do it with today's chemistry. You can make molecules that do self-replicate. So maybe it's hard, but it can be done. Martha writes, Vincent, with what you said about the immune system of bats, does that mean that all birds have strong immune systems due to flight? That's a great question. I don't know. I think birds have virus infections. Let's see. Let's look it up. It's a great question. I like it. Yeah. So birds also have very good immune systems because of flight, and they also are reservoirs of lots of viruses. But people don't pay attention to birds like they pay attention to bats, do they? It's very interesting. Very interesting. Mark writes, what are your sleep hours? Do you allocate enough time? So, not always, right? I should probably. So I get up at 5:30. So what do I need? 7 hours. So I should be sleeping by 10:30. Tonight this ends at 10, and I'm just going to wind down for an hour. So, but I try and get to bed 10:30, 11. Yeah, I think you're right. That's a really good point. Because if you don't give yourself an opportunity to get enough hours, like last week, I got less than 6 hours every night. Kept waking up, and that's not good. So this week, I've started to go to sleep earlier, and I think that helps a lot. Yeah. I will try to take care of myself, absolutely. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Let's do a mini lecture. So here we go. I know that one of you asked for a lecture on mitoviruses, so here we go. Mitoviruses. All right, so this is called mitoviruses, the simplest viruses of the eukaryotic virus sphere. So I have viruses in quotes, and let me tell you why in a second. But mitoviruses are essentially viruses that replicate in mitochondria. They have no capsids. They infect fungi, plants, and invertebrates. All right. But are they viruses? You know, the traditional definition of a virus, it's an obligate intracellular parasite With a nucleic acid genome, it's packaged in a protein coat. That excludes mitoviruses, right? There's no capsid and there's no virion. And in fact, mitoviruses never leave the cell. So I would say they're better described as capsidless RNA replicons, or if you want, intracellular parasitic elements. They are related to viruses by ancestry. They have an RNA-dependent RNA polymerase, which they share with viruses in terms of phylogenetic lineage. But they don't have this defining feature of a capsid. But maybe they're a relic of a pre-capsid stage of RNA element evolution, right? And they're now preserved inside mitochondria. An extracellular phase was never needed. So maybe mitoviruses were once self-replicating RNAs without a polymerase, and they evolved. A polymerase eventually came into the genome. So basically, the mitochondria is the RNA world of mitoviruses, right? It's a protected compartment where naked replicating RNA can persist indefinitely. Okay, so I don't think they're viruses, but that's how they're classified, all right? So what are mitoviruses? They're plus-stranded RNAs of about 2 to 4 kb. There's a single open reading frame encoding only one protein, an RNA-dependent RNA polymerase. There's no capsid protein, and there's no virion. There's no coat. It's just naked RNA. They're the only viruses known to replicate inside eukaryotic mitochondria. They never replicate in the cytoplasm, or maybe rarely. We'll see some exceptions. And the third column here is really interesting, the codon usage. In the mitochondria, the UGA codon is not a stop codon as it is in the cytoplasm of cells. In the mitochondria, the UGA encodes tryptophan. And mitoviruses have UGA codon in the middle of the RNA-dependent RNA polymerase gene. And so that works in mitochondria, right? Because UGA is recognized as coding for tryptophan. But it locks the mitoviruses to mitochondria. They cannot replicate in the cytoplasm unless that codon changes to something else, of course. So that's very interesting about them. Okay, taxonomy, classification. So the realm is Riboviria, right? We have these very high-level realms now that we didn't have a couple of years ago. There's the order Wolfram Virales, and then the family is Mitoviridae. That's a relatively new classification. And we have alpha and beta mitoviruses. These viruses were originally in the Narnaviridae. The mitovirus is a unique genus, which has been, and in the Narnaviridae, the mitoviruses were a genus, and now it's elevated to a family. There are 4 proposed genera. The sister group are the Narnaviruses, which are cytoplasmic viruses, and these probably escaped the mitochondria. They probably were mitoviruses like at one point, but they escaped the mitochondria. What's the host range of these mitoviruses? Fungi are the primary hosts, and a variety of fungi, the chestnut blight fungus, the fungus that causes Dutch elm disease, gray mold, a variety of other fungi, as you can see there. Also, plants are hosts of mitoviruses, and here are some plants that are listed here. Here's a mitovirus, Chenopodium quinoa mitovirus. It infects plant mitochondria in beets and hemp. And there are some interesting aspects here. called NERVs, non-retroviral endogenous RNA viral elements. These are widespread in land plant genomes. Probably the plant mitoviruses were transferred from plant pathogenic fungi. And in plants, we see both nuclear and mitochondrial integration. So these RNAs are present in the genome, the mitochondrial genome and the cell genome as DNA. Interesting. So there is one invertebrate that is known to be infected with a mitovirus. And that's a kind of sandfly, Lutzomia longipalpus. It's the only confirmed animal mitovirus. There are putative sequences in all kinds of other species, including cnidarians, echinoderms, crustaceans, arachnids. But there's no confirmation that these actually replicate, and they're not just contamination from fungal genomes that are contaminating the material. The genome is a single plus-stranded RNA. It's between 2 and 4.4 kilobases long, and it encodes only one protein, the RNA-dependent RNA polymerase, which, of course, is needed to replicate these genomes. There's no capsid, no structural proteins. There's naked RNA. It's protected in the mitochondria. Of course, it has this interesting internal UGA codons, which in the mitochondria are translated as tryptophan. They are not stop codons in mitochondria. The RNA polymerase has typical motifs that show you that it is an RNA polymerase. And there are 5' and 3' untranslated regions like many other RNAs. So these replicate in the following way. The RNAs are always in the mitochondria, right? As the cells divide and the mitochondria divide, they stay with them. They're translated on mitochondrial ribosomes. Again, the UGA is read as a tryptophan, and only one protein is made, the RNA-dependent RNA polymerase. This polymerase copies the plus into double-stranded RNA and then into more plus RNA. It stays in the mitochondria, particularly in the matrix. There's no cytoplasmic phase at all. And then it's transmitted during cell division, right? During cell division. But there's also horizontal transmission during anastomosis of fungi, the hyphae of fungi, right, that fuse. But again, there's no extracellular particle. Now, these mitoviruses have unique biological features. They are protected from short interfering RNA silencing. They're shielded from the cytoplasmic complex that carries that out. They change the proteome of the mitochondria because of this polymerase that is being made. Most of the infections seem to be symptomless. They don't make the hosts sick. And again, there's no extracellular particle. In some fungi, these mitoviruses are linked to hypovirulence. They reduce fungal pathogen virulence in some cases. Where did they come from? So the ancestor is thought to be the Levy viruses. These are bacterial RNA phages, right? They're closely related. They have the same polymerase fold as the Narna viridae. So they probably went into, so remember, the mitochondria originated when an alpha proteobacteria went into probably an archaea. And so these Levy viruses went into the bacterial endosymbiont and became resident mitoviruses of mitochondria. So we have the protomitoviruses and the mitoviruses, and these are the ones with the UGA that's coded for TRP. And then some of these mitoviruses escaped to the cytoplasm, and these are the Narna viruses. And some of these mitoviruses were endogenized in plant genomes via horizontal gene transfer, and we see the plant endogenous viral elements. So the endogenization is very interesting. So these are NERVs, non-retroviral endogenous RNA viral elements. They're widespread in land plant, both mitochondrial and nuclear genomes. The origin is, again, horizontal gene transfer from fungi that are fungi mitoviruses and these fungi are pathogenic for plants. At least one of these mitochondrial nerves is expressed as RNA, but we don't know if it actually replicates. There's one interesting example in the plant Arabidopsis. There is a nuclear mitovirus RNA-dependent RNA polymerase gene integrated into the Arabidopsis genome. It has 97% identity to the mitoviral RNA polymerase. If you knock out that polymerase, the plant doesn't grow. It's embryonic lethal. So this gene has been domesticated for the host. It's being used for something. We don't know what. And it's necessary for viability. So that's an interesting example of a co-option of a viral gene, which we know happens in other systems all the time. There may be more out there. There's a paper from 2023 that has identified 763 new mitovirus sequences. They are found in nucleids. The codon usage pattern is consistent with translation in the mitochondria. There are clades. These are found in diverse ecosystems, such as permafrost, thaw soils, and marine samples. And the sequences are linked to fungal, plant, and invertebrate hosts across biomes. So many more left to be discovered. Very interesting. One of the effects, as I said, is hypovirulence. And so there is this mitovirus, Cryphonectria parasitica mitovirus 1. It infects a fungus, which is the cause of chestnut blight. It's very much a mitovirus, single ORF plus stranded RNA genome. It is restricted to the mitochondria, and it causes hypovirulence. It reduces the virulence of the fungus for the chestnut. And again, these are not extracellular particles. This is different from many other mitoviruses because there are most of them there's no symptoms, but in this particular one we have reduced virulence of the fungal pathogen. This is chestnut blight fungus. If you've ever seen this red colonies on a chestnut tree, it will destroy the tree. But if it's infected with a certain mitovirus, it will reduce the pathogenicity of the fungus. Really cool. So here is just a summary of the UGA codon, the mitochondrial codon. So UGA is in standard cytoplasmic ribosomal code is a stop codon. In the mitochondrial code, it encodes tryptophan, and so do the mitoviruses. Normally, TRIP is encoded by UGG across the mitochondrial and cytoplasmic translation systems. And the other codons, UAA and UAG, are always stop codons no matter where. So having this UGA translated to TRIP is essential for the viability of the mitovirus. And so that locks the mitovirus into the mitochondria. There are lots of mitoviruses in plants. There is the Chenopodium quinoa mitovirus, was the first confirmed plant mitovirus. There have been many genomes sequenced from transcriptome data, and there are actually some mitoviruses of fungi that can infect plant cells. And there are also lots of, as I said, there are lots of endogenization examples in plants where you have the polymerase integrated into the plant genome. So are there vertebrate mitoviruses? Well, the key problem is that the UGA TRIP coding is the feature that locks mitoviruses to their niche. This is also in animal mitochondria. So in theory it works, but no mitovirus has been found. And there are a number of possible reasons. Maybe it's hard to import RNA into mitochondria in vertebrates compared to fungi and plants. Vertebrates have sophisticated innate immune surveillance that fungi lack. There may be a transmission constraint. There's no extracellular particle, right? So horizontal spread requires fusion, which is far less common in vertebrate tissues than in fungi. And anytime you see a mitovirus signal in mammalian transcriptomics, it's hard to rule out as it's not just fungal contamination. So those are mitoviruses, capsidless plus stranded RNA, single open reading frame. They use this UGA for trip in the mitochondria. They came from the Levy viruses. They're the only RNA viruses to replicate inside eukaryotic mitochondria, primarily in fungi, but also plants and maybe invertebrates as well. And at least one example of a case where the plant Arabidopsis has domesticated that viral gene. And that's your mitovirus mini lecture. I hope you liked it. Let's go back to questions. So we have a little time for questions, and then we'll do a couple of poems. So Rayan, I think birds have a lot of viruses as well. I don't know the comparison. That's a really good question. That would require some looking up. But apparently there are many viruses in bats as well. Because of these traits, birds and bats are considered natural reservoirs for many viruses and can carry diseases that would be dangerous to other animals. Not diseases, but viruses. And there's actually a paper that looks at this. Oh, look at this. Bats and birds as viral reservoirs, a physiological and ecological perspective. This is in Science Total Environment from 2020. Very cool. Very cool. Mark. Bats are mammals. They live in huge colonies. They fly. I would bet birds that live in huge colonies have convergent evolution. To bats, you mean? They're evolving some similar traits as bats? Yeah, I think that might be true. Professor, what do you think would be the most interesting and impactful research topic in veterinary virology for Algeria? Well, I don't know anything about what animals are important in Nigeria. Let's look it up. The fox and the camel. The macaque. So, what pops to mind, I'm guessing the camels have MERS. Do Algerian camels have MERS? Yes, they do have MERS. Yep. It's different from the types that circulate elsewhere. So, that's been done. In camels. MERS has been looked at, so probably want to look at that. But this, the country's national animal, the fennec fox, it's a cultural staple in the Sahara. Maybe that would be interesting to look at in terms of what viral diseases are present, or the Barbary macaque. That's another one. But if there are farmed animals that are important, that would be interesting as well to see what kind of viral diseases they get. Hello from Argentina, where it's 12 degrees Celsius. Welcome. M. doesn't know what to make of the Mitch McConnell thing. Who knows? Everybody lies, right? It's just horrible that they want to hang on to power, so they might hide things. I have no idea. I don't know what to make of it either. Hello, Dorothy Charging Hawk. 68F in Duluth. And more or less a couple degrees warmer all over the North Country. Les writes, I think you're right that the twin killings were related to postpartum depression. of the most recent child, right? I'm so sorry. Metropole Macro. Longtime fan of your great science communication. I'm an undergrad in Mexico. How can I hope to compete with first world undergrads for a master's in their country? Will I even be welcomed? So, yes, you will be welcomed. So you have to, I have had a couple of, not undergrads, but PhD students work in my lab from Mexico many years ago. And, they would be great people to give you advice. Now, they are in CDMX, but you could email them. And if you write to me, Vincent at microbe.tv, I'll connect you with them, and you can tell them what you want to do and get advice from them. But yes, you can come here, and there's still plenty of labs that you can train in to get a master's degree for sure. Don't give up. Sandra, thank you so much for your contribution to science communication. I appreciate it. Here you go, Twin 54, How Pregnancy Transforms the Brain, released in October 2024. Costello's seen too many stories of a mom killing her very young kids, and the dad is a total abusive a-hole in the background. It's true. Yep. Do you recall a story from 10-ish years ago of a bacteria that eats oil? Yes, totally. They can eat oil. It was used in the Gulf spill for sure. Definitely used for remediation and very cool. Bacteria are being trained to eat plastic now, which is, filling the oceans. Mike writes, there was a deer hunter in northern Nevada who died with a prion disease after eating venison from a deer. This was at least a decade ago when everyone was freaking out over mad cow. Yeah, more recently, there were 2 men who died of prion diseases after consuming venison, but there's no evidence that it was linked to the venison. It seems that it was, the kind of prion disease that you get sporadically or genetically. So there's certain amino acid changes in the prion protein that are associated with sporadic or spontaneous misfolding of the protein, and they seem to have that. So far, there's no good evidence that the deer prions can cause human diseases, which is not to say we shouldn't keep paying attention, right? We need to pay attention to that. Yeah. Hello, Elizabeth. It's okay. You can watch tomorrow. It was a lot of fun. Would aerobic exercise reduce the risk for infection? That's a great question. I don't know the answer, right? You can imagine that it may help your immune system in some way, but I don't know. Today on Immune, we did a paper where they showed that eating boosts T-cell activity. So they had a human trial where they fed people and then measured their T-cell functions, and they were boosted. So does aerobic exercise improve immune function? So it enhances your circulation. It improves certain immune cell activities. It reduces inflammation. So consistent aerobic exercise is linked to lower chronic, low-grade inflammation. And it helps lower cortisol, right? The one that wakes me up. Of course, I don't know that it actually is cortisol that wakes me up. I mean, I exercise. I do aerobic exercise 3 times a week. I do treadmill, right? And I don't know. I've never noticed if I sleep better, but I did last week, and I didn't sleep last week either. But I don't give up. I keep doing it. It's a good question. Yes, Questella says, if I go to bed, I will just lay there for 6 hours. Yeah, but that's a problem. That's originally why I started going to bed later, because I couldn't fall asleep. But now I actually fall asleep, so I can go to bed earlier, and it works. Catch my whiff. There's another science channel I follow where the guy noted that new research points to a consistent time in going to bed having more of an impact than getting under 6 hours. Consistent time in going to bed. I'm trying to do that. You know, give or take 30 minutes. How's that? Questella, if you go to bed 10, 11 and lay there till 5, that's not good. You need to do something. Did you try magnesium? That helps put a lot of people to sleep. Or the other thing, you know what it is, begins with an M. I don't remember. Soul Symphony writes, anti-vaccine nonprofit. We can't have nonprofit and anti-vax in one sentence. Yeah, I mean, it was originally formed to do environmental things, so they didn't have anti-vaccine in its incorporation articles, right? They just changed it later on. But I think that we should disband them, take away their nonprofit status for promoting anti-vaccine rhetoric, which is lies, basically. What can I do, Metropole Markle, to increase chances to be accepted for a master's in the EU? You have a year wet lab experience. Get more wet lab experience and make sure you line up professors who are going to write you letters of recommendation. And if they know labs that would help, that they could write to and say, you know, I know this person very well and they're good and you know, that would help a lot. Yeah, I almost said Narnia viruses because Narnia is so close. Yes, yes. Are not Mitos quite ancient? Well, their ancestors are from bacterial viruses, right? And then when they came in, yes. So when a bacteria went into an archaea, and a bacteria walked into an archaea, that became the ancestors of the common day eukaryotic cells. And so, yes, it's quite ancient. Yeah. The virus, the witch, and the wardrobe. Now, what is... This sounds familiar. I don't get it, though. How do mitoviruses survive RNase? Well, the RNases are in the cytoplasm. They're not in the nucleus. And sorry, they're not in the mitochondria. So that protects them. Yeah. It's not surprising that the virus was co-opted by the host. That's right. We're made of we have many viral and bacterial genes in us that have been co-opted. That's absolutely right. Yeah. If they were still in bacteria, would they be called viruses or just parasitic RNA plasmids? That's a good question. Does the leviviruses are phages, so they have capsids, so they are real viruses. Yeah. What does this mean for humans? Nothing. Mitoviruses don't seem to infect humans, so nothing to worry about. but they can attenuate fungi, right? That's good. Hypovirulence. Are there any outright phages? No. There are only these capsidless organisms. SRR, thank you so much for your support of science communication. Also, Catch My Whiff, thank you so much. I'm new to your channel, but I love that you lead by example, looking up just about everything. I can't know everything, and I can interpret results, and I try to go to research papers when I can, right? But thank you for joining us. So Brucella in Algeria is important, who asked before. That's very good. Thank you. John writes, a plant mitovirus, a virus, and a fungi walk into a bar, and the bartender says, not to be a bad host, but we don't have any whiteflies here. Broomp. I'll be here all week. Try the veal. Yeah, a little hot plate for my tea. It is absolutely stone cold. Let's do some poems. I have 3 poems for you tonight. Short ones. First one is by Langston Hughes. It's called I, Too. I, too, sing America. I am the darker brother. They send me to eat in the kitchen when company comes. But I laugh and eat well and grow strong. Tomorrow I'll be at the table when company comes. Nobody'll dare say to me, eat in the kitchen, then. Besides, they'll see how beautiful I am and be ashamed. I, too, am America. I love that, right? It's beautiful. This was sent from a listener. I don't know who, but it came in the text. I gave out my cell phone a couple weeks ago. It's called Not Waving But Drowning by Stevie Smith. Nobody heard him, the dead man, but still he lay moaning. I was much further out than you thought, and not waving, but drowning. Poor chap, he's always loved larking, and now he's dead. It must have been too cold for him. His heart gave way, they said. Oh, no. It was too cold always. Still the dead one lay moaning. I was much too far out all my life, and not waving, but drowning. That's about someone who's out in the water, who's drowning and trying to get help, and people think he's just waving to them. It's great. Thank you for sending that in. And then another one from a listener. This is called Unpaired Words by Willard Espy. It's a poem of forgotten positives. I dreamt of a corrigible, innocuous youth, gainly, gruntled, and kempt, a mayed and assiduous fellow, forsooth, ordinate, effable, shevelled, ept, couth, a delible fellow I dreamt. Correspondingly, he pointed out, many common words ending in less seem to have no opposites ending in full. A tailful dog, one leafful spring, set out for toothful foraging, and as he dug in rootful sod, paid voiceful tribute to his God, at which a feckful, loveful lass, whose strapful bodice charmed each pass, Irby cried out, "Oh, timeful sound! Oh, ogful, lifeful, peerful hound!" So cool. A poem of forgotten positives. Thank you for sending that in. Thank you, everyone, for joining tonight. I really appreciate it. We had moderating tonight Les Fabi and Tom Steinberg. I had all of you here, of course, with your lovely conversations. A lot of questions came up. Virus says Luna wants to see my cup. Why you thought it was RNA? I mean, I don't know why you would think it's RNA. Yeah, doesn't look like RNA. Oh, Not Waving Drowning is the name of an Australian band. I now know where the name comes from. There you go. Two submitted by listeners. I really appreciate that. You can submit your poems. Yes, I too and Not Waving Drowning are sad indictments on the USA Today, in my opinion. It is true. Thank you, Doreen, for your support of science communication. I really appreciate it. That'll do it for another Office Hours. We'll be back next week. Next week is, let's see, today is the 8th. Next Wednesday will be the 15th. And it's also Daniel Griffin's birthday, the 15th of July. How nice. Thanks for coming, everybody. Yeah, you can send a cat poem in. That's totally fine. If you send a poem, I will read it, okay, unless it has inappropriate words for a live stream. Have a good week, everybody. Be safe, be sound. See you next week. Until then, please be curious. Bye-bye.